AI has been around about 50 years as we know it. It is just coming to mainstream in the past handful of years. What we're going to talk about today is I'm really talking about kind of the ChatGPT model of AI, which is called generative AI. Generative AI means that they are generating information for you. And just want to make sure I have something. Okay, that's what we're kind of talking about because that's what we're all familiar with. Hi, Cora. Hi, Miss Janice. That's what we're going to be talking about today is ChatGPT. And what should you be teaching about writing and generative AI, I want you to know the first time that you went online shopping and typed into a chat box and asked it a question, that's generative AI. So it has been, even generative AI, ChatGPT came to us in the fall of 2022 as we're seeing it. It's changed obviously a lot since then, but the first time you saw and probably interacted with generative AI were these chat boxes of these help features on websites, which you know has been a long time. So that idea is that that's a bot answering your question based on information, previous questions, and all of that. So we are teaching writing in homeschool world. I have seen writing in homeschool world be an idol. I really have. I've really seen writing be an idol. And I think it's important when you think about anything with homeschooling, you have to start with the end in mind. Everything I'm saying should be filtered through your process of your goals for your children. If you want your child to go to Oxford, which was so fun, we just visited there, and the streets smell like books. I am not making that up. The streets at Oxford smell like books. So if that's your goal for your child or your family, then you should probably not even be here. Just stick to the old school traditional methods, because those are the places, those are the academic institutions that are going to stick to traditional models, and we need those to exist forever. Because original content is required for generative models to work, okay? So you have to know yourself in any talk to know what is your goal for your child. But if your goal for your child is to graduate from college or a master's degree at a university, even necessarily an Ivy League, where you're not majoring in something like writing or literature, we need to determine what are we doing with our time today to help better prepare them for what your goals are. So ChatGPT is, and use this because I want you guys to think of this later, is basically just a calculator for words. That's all it is. So this calculator can do more advanced things than the calculator on our phone. Actually, I'm assuming. Okay.
I think we have to.
Is this like it can?
We have like scientific ones now on the book.
But the basic one. This can do more, but is this calculator smart?
It's programmed.
It's programmed. This calculator is not smart. It's not smart at all. Okay? This calculator is dumb. This is the dumbest calculator ever. It can't do anything. It literally can't do anything. It does nothing except exist without what? Human interaction and programming. So if 2 + 2 stops becoming 4, this calculator is really dumb because it thinks 2 + 2 is 4. So it's really dumb. So who has told this calculator 2 + 2 is 4? Well, people have. Okay, people have told this calculator. That's what ChatGPT is. It is a calculator for words. I am generalizing here to make a complicated system simple, but it is like a calculator for words. What it does, it takes all the words that have existed that get inputted into it, and then it makes calculations. It's called reckoning. So reckoning is what ChatGPT does. That's the kind of reckoning writing, that we should stop teaching unless you want your child to become an academic researcher and go to a school where they would be writing their original content, research papers, which we all need, but they would still use this as a tool. But you should stop teaching writing that involves reckoning in your home unless that's your goal. So what kind of writing is reckoning? Well, any sort of writing that would be pulling information, where your job is to be the intermediary between a bunch of information and taking it to smaller. So basically every academic essay, which academic essays were always just a tool in academia to train the mind. But if you're like, read these 10 books and write a paper on these 10 books, ChatGPT can do that for you. Assuming ChatGPT has read those books, that's the assumption. So that's what you need to stop doing. What ChatGPT can't do is it can't reason, and it has no practical wisdom, none whatsoever. It cannot give practical wisdom. So if you were to hire a babysitter, Beth, if you were to hire a babysitter, would you leave a written list for this babysitter? Let's say you're going out of town for 3 days, she has 4 kids. Are you gonna leave a written list for her?
Yeah, because I wouldn't expect her to remember everything that I say.
Okay, good. How many, if you were to surmise, how many bullet points on this list would there be?
I would probably try to keep it to 1 page.
Okay, so maybe 20, if it's 1 page. Okay, so you get home from your trip with your 4 kids and 1 is missing. And you go to the babysitter and you say, where's Christian? Did you write on your list, please don't lose Christian?
That's assumed.
You assumed. Okay, so you assumed. You didn't tell her not to lose 1 out of 4 of your children or any of them. Now maybe you wrote on the list, do not hand over my youngest daughter to any strangers because she will go with anybody. She's the friendliest little baby I've ever seen. Please don't hand her over to a stranger. So then you get back home and there was a house fire. One of them didn't make it because the firefighter tried to collect your child and your babysitter was like, can't give you the child, says right here on the list, don't hand the baby over to a stranger. That's ChatGPT. Your baby would die.
Yeah.
So when you're looking for a babysitter, what are you actually looking for?
Somebody who can reason.
Someone who can reason, right? This is good news because ChatGPT cannot do that and can never do it. It appears like it can do it because it's taking information from people who do reason and it's circulating that information to give back to your student. That's what it's doing. Now, ChatGPT is only as good as the information being put in it. So since it's new, raise your hand if you write something for anything. I do this all the time, but you write it first, then you copy, paste it, put it in ChatGPT and do some version of please make this better. Raise your hand. Okay, you are feeding it original content. Do you know who's not gonna do that? Who's what? Kids. Because what don't kids have? A lot of original content. So they're gonna say, write me a paper on bumblebees. But ChatGPT is taking Danielle's bumblebee paper that she wrote and got published 15 years ago and taking that information, and Miss Tony actually wrote a paper on bumblebees as well, and then National Geographic published an article on bumblebees, and they created Piper's paper on bumblebees. However, if original content stops getting put in, then we are just recycling the same information. This is just your little warning of where I see personally it going, is that it will stop having original content. So it'll start recycling the same concepts over and over and over again. And how many times do you get told you look like Reese Witherspoon? All the time. I mean, it's remarkable. You all have to look at her. I mean, it's like Reese is here in the building. So that would be a problem if original ideas aren't fed. So every time you're feeding the beast information, your original ideas, you're actually helping the future. Now, every time someone goes in and says, just write me a paper on, mechanics, then they're just pulling off of other people's ideas. And 10, 15, 20 years from now, that's what's gonna happen more and more and more. And then the original content gets watered down, recycled. But for right now, it's using original content, and it has a whole ton of it because it's new. So it has everything it has is original. But in 10 years, when the article posted in National Geographic was written with ChatGPT, and then that's the original content it's using, but it's not original at all. So it's very scary. It's kind of like asking it for a Bible verse. Right now, I fact check every time I put in a Bible verse. I never don't ask it for a verse on something and cross-check the Bible. You think your kid's gonna do that? And then here's where we could change the Bible. And that is terrifying. So right now, if you're asking for Galatians 5:22 and 23, it's gonna give you the first fruits of the Spirit. But if people stop miswriting or have evil intentions and start feeding it the wrong information, again, it's the babysitter that's gonna let one of your kids go missing and one of them die in a fire. That's all it is. Which is why you see these articles of people who have done harmful things to themselves, because it has no reason. Okay, so remember that what ChatGPT does well is reckoning, which is a form of intelligence that excels at calculation, memorization, and repetition. That's it. So it's using all of these systems of the things we have put in. What is it? With the things it's not. It relies solely on input, And without new content, it does not improve. So it could actually just get worse and worse at what it's doing now. So your Bumblebee paper in 10 years could be a terrible paper versus right now where it's pretty good. So you have to be aware of that. Now, what do we have to do? Well, IA is something that I would encourage you guys to think about if you're trying to be up to date. I want you to know when I first started reading about this, I thought it was just they had misput in AI. I did. In fact, I even corrected it a couple times as I was making notes. No, this is called intelligence augmentation. Intelligence augmentation. This is what, if it's used well, will give you the edge. Now, when we augment something, we change it, right? That's what we do. When we're augmenting something, we're changing it. So intelligence augmentation is when AI plus people plus a person is used. Then you're going to get IA. You take either out of the equation and the result, the sum, is not as great. If you take either out of the equation, if you take the AI out or if you take the people out, which is why you can put your original writing in and it creates more value to your original writing because it has a better vocabulary. You don't have enough time in the world, Laura, to improve your vocabulary I mean, it has the dictionary memorized. Actually, it has every dictionary that's ever been written since the beginning of time memorized. You couldn't possibly have that much time to gain that much knowledge. So that's why it's a great tool. But take AI out, and a person won't appear as intelligent anymore. Because now the gold standard, they're calling this, the gold standard, which is ironic because does gold have a standard in our country? I don't think gold has a standard in our country. Should, in theory. It's a theoretical concept. Maybe it used to. But if you have people not using AI, they're going to appear to be not intelligent very quickly. And if you have AI without people, you're going to have just mass emotional destruction because logic and reasoning, everything has to go into everything. So the gold standard is going to be intelligence augmentation, where people learn to use AI. So if you're familiar with an IEW writing model, I've been teaching that for 10 years, and I love it. I love the model, and I used my own middle school class this year as my own test subjects for this. I stopped requiring the final product of the paper. I taught an entire year and stopped requiring the final product because the final product is reckoning. The final product is 2 + 2 = 4. The final product is the refining. If I have them do their final product will never be as good as something that includes this help, which would be no different than back in the day taking out a dictionary, looking up every adjective in your writing, looking up every adverb, finding a better one, reset. But it can do that in seconds. Seconds it can do that, especially if you ask it what to do. I find ChatGPT to be very ly adverb heavy, if you're familiar with IEW. I also find them to use a lot of dashes. So often I'm like, enough with the dashes. I never used one in my life. Is it even called a dash? I'm like, do it again without the dashes. Who uses dashes? ChatGPT. Same thing with the ly adverbs. I'm like, whoa, it's a little wordy. Do it again with less ly adverbs. But I have to know that in order to ask it to do it. So when I taught IEW all this year, I took us through the rough draft. I took us through the process of note-taking, of taking the information and making your own ideas and assumptions about what's important to put in it. And then we stopped there. Because then I could get to more of that. Because I didn't require, when I've been teaching IEW 10 years, and it'd be 2 or 3 weeks to get them to write a final draft of the paper. So instead of that, I was like, next week we're on the next one. We're doing it again. We're taking these articles and we're going to get this information. What do you think is important? Your note taking, and I taught them about, how to dress up your writing in theory so that they know what to type in. We did not use ChatGPT at all. I am actually in my home here. You kind of look like her. This is raise your hand. This is my 8th grade daughter, Ella. What kind of cell phone do you have?
None.
Oh, that's so sad. You have the worst mom ever. So my home, I would consider us probably anti-technology. My first daughter got a phone in 9th grade. My next daughter will get a phone next year in 9th grade. A whole week might go by. We don't watch any TV. There's no tablet usage. There is computer usage now, but it's very minimal. So I would consider there's various anti-technology. You don't have to prepare your kids for this with AI. You don't have to use AI now to prepare them for this. But what you need to do is make sure that they are the kind of people that are ready to use AI with that. And then what does that require? What are the kind of people that are going to be able to use AI? Lisa, what kind of people do you think? What skills now do we need?
You need creative.
You need creativity. Good. You need creativity. You need to be able to be creative. Because everything else it can do. So you have to be able to be creative, and then you also have to be able to you'll have to also be able to use teamwork. So if you want to be the new gold standard of IA, intelligence augmentation, you have to be creative and you have to know how to do teamwork. Because that's what it can't do. That's what it's also going to be eliminated. You know, you're not going to have as many of those, individual jobs. What it can't do, if you've ever studied the power of the mastermind, the concept of a mastermind is when several minds get together and the thoughts of those minds together create something that could not exist before. Have you ever been with a group of people that are really intellectually stimulating to you and you guys come up with some idea and then try to track back whose it was and it was nobody's? But it's this brilliant form of idea, but it was the collective ideas that brought together. Or if you've done an escape room. If you've done an escape room, this is that same concept. No one found the right key, but everyone's shouting out the things they see, and then collectively, that information gave someone the idea, the final idea. So that's teamwork. And that will never be replaced by ChatGPT. I don't like to use absolutes. That most likely won't be replaced by AI. So what kind of writing should you be teaching if you're not teaching academic essays? Well, do you think the only way to build creativity is in writing? No. Do you think it's the best way? If we were defining best as effective, and effective is efficient over a period of time. So you can be an efficient person. I could come in here and give you an efficient talk and be an efficient speaker. But to be an effective speaker, I would have to show up here and do it 200 days a year. That makes me effective. So effective is efficient plus time equals consistency makes effective. So do you think teaching a creative writing class and putting your kid through a creative writing class, by yours or outsourcing, is the most effective way to teach creativity in writing? This is a discussion. I don't know. Maybe you do. So let's open it up. What do you guys think?
I think it depends on the child.
Okay, good. It would be very child dependent. What type of child might thrive in learning creativity by actually sitting down and doing a writing exercise?
Someone who, like, writing is something that they're naturally drawn to.
Good.
And words are fun for them.
What she's talking about is desire. That should be a huge component of your education just in general. Now, I want to take this with, you have to consider, I'm not a gentle parent. I just want to say that. There's nothing gentle about my parenting. Okay? My kids don't want to do a fraction of the things they do. So when I say desire, I don't mean they jump up in the morning and like, let's get that creative writing on, Mom. I mean, once you get over the whining, the complaining, the nagging, the put that down, once you get through that, once they're engaged in the process and you can get them in a state of flow, they have a desire for it. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Because I feel people confuse this, like someone had some superhuman kid that came out and just wants to spend all day learning or going places. I mean, the amount of activities I pay for that my kids the entire drive there say they don't want to do. And I'm like, all right, well, don't want to do it while you're getting out of the car. Just don't want to do it while you keep walking in. Okay, so what do they have the desire to learn it that way? That's so great. Do they have the desire? And then another thing she talked about was kind of like aptitude. And this is just success in general, guys. Desire plus skills will equal outcomes. It's not just desire alone. You have to have the skills in order to get an outcome from that. Otherwise, if these two things aren't married, I could have the desire to sing like Elisa, who, by the way, is, like Celine Dion sitting in the room with Reese Witherspoon right behind you. I could have the desire to be like Elisa, but if I don't have the skills, there's not going to be the same outcome. So you are looking for that in your writing. But if creativity and teamwork are the new gold standard for intelligence augmentation, then you have to figure out how are you teaching creativity, because if creativity is the only thing that's required, if I could I vomit information into a Google Doc. I am not an organized person in my mind, but I can be very creative, but I don't have a good system for organizing, which is what I love about the IEW program, is it teaches you a system to organize your thoughts. But now I don't need that system. I can take So when I'm taking information, Jessica has left the room, but I will, whenever I have a new idea, I'm a great typer thanks to a 7th grade typing course required at my school, so I can type very fast without looking, and I make a lot of mistakes, but now that doesn't even matter because they just autocorrect them. So I can just vomit my idea, I just get to type. Turns out to be about 2 pages, my whole idea I used to give it to Jessica. She would read through it, ask questions, and turn it into a system or a logical train of thought. Now I can just copy and paste that into ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my ideas, and my goal is that this is a new class that offers this. So that eliminated the need for people like Jessica, who that was their skill. Now you have to upskill. This is what they're calling it now. Now, so if that was your skill, if you have the spiritual gift of administration, things like that, then you have to start upskilling. What does that look like in this modern world? Don't stay stuck in that was your skill now if something can do it in a minute. So if you're going to, you have to learn to turn over the reckoning, you have to learn to turn over the reckoning things in your life to ChatGPT or AI, and then you have to learn how to bring in the practical wisdom. That's another thing it'll never do, practical wisdom. This is pretty much it, practical wisdom. Now, however, those of you that are going to struggle the most with this are the people with Jessica's type of skills. You're going to struggle the most because ChatGPT is replacing part of who you are. Raise your hand if you're someone like a Jessica personality that prides themselves on organization, being able to create systems, being able to do that. Raise your hand if you fall. There's about half of us here that would fall into that category. Raise your hand. Okay, great. Where are you going to upskill? Because now those things can be easily done. So what are you doing to idea generate? What are you doing to create teamwork? Because ChatGPT is not working with a team. It's working with the entire data system, but not a team. And how are you going to go and grow in practical wisdom? So let's talk about practical wisdom and what that looks like. Practical wisdom is what Beth is looking for when she hires a babysitter. She's looking for practical wisdom. Raise your hand and tell me some things you're doing in your home to train on practical wisdom, because I want to make sure that we're getting to the root of it. Yes, Beth?
Bible reading.
Good. Specifically, what part of the Bible is really good at teaching practical wisdom?
Proverbs.
Proverbs is really good at practical wisdom. Okay? If you're learning if you want to evangelize and save someone right out in the hall, go to Romans. If you want to make sure that your child is growing in practical wisdom, get into Proverbs. Danielle?
Devotional reading.
Devotional reading. Because what is devotional style reading? If someone here doesn't know what that is. I remember I was a new Christian. It took me a long time to understand this concept. What is devotional reading? In theory, what is it you're supposed to be doing?
You're spending time with God. You're maybe if you don't understand the Bible, it just explains more about the Bible verse.
But a devotional reading is trying to
to
get
your life.
Yes,
and
it's trying to get you to
start
think.
and
It's
start
a
the day off right or end the day.
Yes, so devotion is usually taking a Bible verse or a part of the Bible and trying to get you to think about how that applies to your life. Because you can train ChatGPT to know a person, to know your standard, to know this. Like we have trained ChatGPT to understand our businesses, but it's still it doesn't understand, I can put in my vision, I can do that, but my vision also changes. And if I'm not constantly updating that, then it's going to give me poor information. So yes, devotions are taking information, applying practical wisdom. How does this apply to my life? And training your child. What else are you guys doing to teach practical wisdom in your home?
On a non-spiritual note, the other day I had the boys power washing outside, and we had to use an extension cord, and Graham was pulling it, and it unplugged, and I was like, oh, you need to tie a knot right here so that when you pull on it, it doesn't unplug every time.
Good.
And I was like, and so learning just things that come naturally as an adult. Oh, I have to do this to make this work. They don't know that.
Yes.
So those kinds of things just through life, when they're cooking, when they're anything that we naturally just do, I'm trying to step back and be like, oh, well, what should you do next? How would that work? Letting them think through it instead of me.
Learning through experience.
What Elisa said. If you stop doing everything for your kid, they're going to grow in practical wisdom. Anyone want to know like a lower socioeconomic word for this? Street smart. Street smart. The kids being raised without mothers, they gain practical wisdom. It might not have good morals, it might not have good values, but if I needed to solve a problem and there was an emergency situation, I'd rather take a kid that grew up without a mom any day than where are you going? Where are you? Where are you going? Versus especially a homeschool mom, no offense guys, no offense, but if I'm like, well, I can't tell you how many times I'm ordering food somewhere and they're like, we're out of Munster cheese. Well, we're gonna have to solve that problem and I'm gonna have to help you because you're not offering me any solutions other than, because I'm here at Publix and I see a whole glass case full of cheese. What should we do about this? Don't know. I actually had maybe 18 at my house one time. We had a bunch of takeout. This is maybe within the past 5 years. And the takeout place gave us serving spoons for everything but one. And she stood in my kitchen and was like, we're short a serving spoon. I was like, indeed we are. Good thing we're in the kitchen. And we can solve that problem. Whoever couldn't open your milk carton when you were young, talk about some practical wisdom. Who's ever torn that thing open, jabbed something in it, drank it out of the side corner and spurted out 5 different ways? Because you're like, I'm getting the chocolate milk, even if I can't open the
Talking
carton.
about the mini cardboard
Yes!
pints one
Yes!
in the school cafeteria.
Yes!
To be exact.
Sometimes it like folded open and just perfect spout. That was about 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, you had to figure out how to get in there if you wanted that chocolate milk. And no one was waiting. Now we wait. Oh, you're not done with your lunch. Hurry up. No one was waiting. It was like, can't bring it with you. How many times have you drank it out of some weird part of it trying to get it out? How many times have you opened a cheese stick for your kid? How many times have you put the straw into their juice box? Again, it's okay. It's okay. But if you want them, now, this is the new gold standard. Practical wisdom. That's the new gold standard. And what we could offer to our children before ChatGPT in the way of education, now I think should be shifted over to practical wisdom, which is basically trying to your best to never answer any single question they ask. I cried yesterday. Ella, did I cry yesterday? I cried. What did I cry over?
Just like us growing up and kind of like leaving the house and
That wasn't in the moment. That was the deeper.
the not wanting to
grief.
spend time with family kind of.
Well, they all wanted to go in different directions, living their best lives yesterday. They wanted to go in different directions, living their best lives. I had a few plans for the day, which included some family time, included some tickets I bought for something. There was a lot of logistics going on. And I went cry because I was like, can no one just feed themselves and get a lunch and figure out a plan and help me with the scheduling? So again, the practical wisdom in these moments, I'm realizing, no, they're not quite ready. So then Piper, I'm not picking on you, Piper. Piper got up to make banana bread. She is a servant's heart. So she's like, I'm gonna make everyone banana bread. So I was like, great, I needed this to go fast, so I helped. I mashed the bananas. She got an egg, she mashed it. So we have mashed bananas in one bowl, egg in another bowl. I had her get out a mixing bowl. We have the mix with the directions. This is the Chiquita one you buy. I preheated the oven, and then I went to get some work done. And then what happened 45 minutes later?
I forgot the banana powder.
So she put the eggs and the bananas into the mixing bowl, like I instructed her, but I didn't specifically say, don't lose Christian. I didn't specifically say, now open the pouch of the packet and put that in, that would be required. So she baked banana and an egg for 45 minutes.
What came out?
I didn't see what happened, but this is around the time those tears were coming. And so then when I came back out of my room, my oldest had turned that and put the mix in, made muffins, and they're dense, but good. They were very dense. It was a dense banana muffin. So again, that mistake though, now she understands that. So we have to get back to more and more practical wisdom. And unfortunately in homeschool mom world, I see a lot of this not happening because we are so present and we're so available. Versus if you just send them off, they have to figure it out, which involves tears and frustration. But you being available is too easy even when you're busy. And they're like, what about this? And you're just like, da-da-da-da. You're just not even thinking. But then they're not thinking. And then when they go to use ChatGPT, it's not going to be original content. They're just going to be asking it to create. You have to create thinkers. You have to create practical wisdom. I don't actually think, I think writing as far as pen to paper is going to be a dead art. What is never going to be a dead art is the writing that happens between your ears, which is thinking. But you all, since the beginning of time of writers, you've never had to be a brilliant writer. There's a whole team of people that make a book. You could be completely illiterate, completely this, and then you're just verbally reciting to someone who would dictate and get that. It was always, the greatest books were always just the greatest thoughts, not the greatest writer. And I'm not opposed to getting someone really great at an academic essay if that's your goal. But otherwise, I think most other writing can come off the table as long as you are teaching practical wisdom and the ability to think your thoughts clearly. You know, I was in a conversation with Miss Danielle's son the other day, and he kept speaking in fragments to me. And it was very actually confusing. And he was emotional, and and I'm like, you're speaking in half sentence. I was like, whoa, just calm down. Give me a complete sentence. Just give me a complete sentence so I can work with it. So again, if our children don't know how to communicate effectively in a clear sentence, right now in my home, what are we really working on in my home, girls? With speaking, crutch words. I've never heard so many likes in my life. And now I realize I am saying like, because we're just a product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if your kids say like all the time before you know it, you're saying like all the time, and then no one has any sense. And where ChatGPT can make you sound intelligent on paper, can ChatGPT make you sound intelligent in person? It never can. You know, and if you read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink, you will see how many snap judgments are made by us right when we show up, right when we open our mouth. So I always try to teach kids when I'm teaching them about cussing. Cussing is just someone who doesn't have other adjectives and adverbs and verbs. It's just simply grammar. The people that cuss a lot are trying to emphasize a sentence, and they don't have better words to do it with. They don't have better vocabulary. So how do we increase our vocabulary? I think studying vocabulary is still a very worthwhile attempt, but that doesn't need a vocabulary book. You could be reading, stopping, discussing a book. Jessica was posting yesterday. She'll stop TV and say, do you know what this word means? If you see it somewhere, do you know what that means? In a recipe, do you know what that means? And then just adding to the vocabulary. The best way you can increase your kids' vocabulary is to do what? Use it. You have a better vocabulary. That's why when people have high vocabularies, they raise kids. This is why doctors raise doctors, attorneys raise attorneys, public speakers raise public speakers. Like, we're all just raising kids. They're just trying, firefighters raise firefighters. It's because more is caught than taught. So if you want something different for your child, then you either have to constantly be verbally telling them, not how I knew it, all I have is curse words, but I want you to have this, or you have to become it. You have to slowly be becoming the person you want them to be in your Christ-like walk, in your educational home, everything. Okay, so intelligence augmentation is the new way. You have to increase upskilling your work, which is creativity and teamwork. That's what you're going to upskill. And then decision making. Decision making is going to be one that is going to start dying, just like the kid who can't tell me what the options are when he's out of the cheese. Decision making is going to start slowly declining, decision making. And how you want to give your kid an edge is that they can make decisions. And usually when you ask a kid a question, the first thing they say is what, Natalie? Say it louder. And the first thing you do when you ask a kid, usually they say is what? And then what do I always say? But if you did know, that's not an original idea. I took it from a speaker at the FBA conference. But now that's my response. But if you did know, because then I'm just putting it back on them, because what you're asking me to do is think for you. And if you want me to think for you, I tell my kids or my students, you have to pay me for it. Because I put the time in to be a good thinker and a good decision maker. So now my time has value. So if you want me to do the thinking for you with this problem, then just pay me. No problem. Otherwise, do your own thinking. Get there on your own. So when they say, I don't know, but if you did know, and then they have to stop and go to that second level of, okay, but if I did know. So you have to raise good decision makers, which means you have to allow them to make decisions. How many decisions are your children making in a day? There's some things you can't decide, and there's some things they can. I do not let my children decide what extracurricular activities they do. I have a plan for them. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm trying to instill. So for us, dance is a physical exercise I chose that they would do from kindergarten through 12th grade to gain agility, physical strength, flexibility, endurance. I chose dance. You're not quitting. I don't even care if you ever liked it. That's what I chose because I know I looked back at that time and decided I'm much better. God bless me with girls. I don't have to be outside, so I'm not going to be. So we're going to be inside. I'm not traveling on the weekends to watch you do your thing that I just want you to gain strength in. I don't have to do that. We just have an end of the year recital. So we've also never joined dance team. What I want you to, so when they're like, I hate it, great. Well, no one likes going to the gym except a few rare people, so this is my version of getting you to go to the gym. Now, I let the piano. Music is going to be a part of my home, learning a musical instrument. From the time I could afford it, which was when my oldest was about 10 or 11, forever. Now you all take piano. They're never stopping in my home. I don't let them make those decisions. I don't make them practice. I say, you can make the decision if you want to be better. That's what you can decide. But in my home, you're going to learn piano, and if I make you take it for 10, 12 years, you will get better. I mean, Jessica's daughter's on the slow track. She's been taking piano for what, 6 years? 6 years. She doesn't make her practice. She just wants the
right in front of the music teacher.
Yeah, she could go over anytime. Victoria's not interested. She understands this is a part of her education. She goes over there, and every year at the recital, we are shocked at how little she's grown. Every year, she looks beautiful. She goes up there. It's like a slightly improved version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star every year. We're like, good for you, Victoria.
It's more than what I would have ever brought in my household.
Correct.
In terms of music.
In terms of music, and it was important to you that she had that. So those are decisions I don't let my kids make because I have practical wisdom they do not have. So I'm not into this. You get to decide what you do when you want because you can't possibly understand life like I understand it at 44. There are other things I do let them decide. Where do you want to go do that? I certainly don't let them decide who they are friends with and hang out with. I would challenge you guys there. That is not a decision you are equipped to make. I feel like I was barely equipped to make it until 5 years ago. Which is why I've had to move through so many friends in my life. Because who I was at 16, 20, or 25 is not the person that would attract the kind of friends I want in my life. And when I was really making a big shift when I was new to my faith, there was about a 5-year period I felt really lonely. Because I wasn't ready as the kind of person to be friends with the type of people I wanted to be friends with. But I was outgrown these ones. And then there's this like lonely area, you know? Elisa is one of my friends that, right here, that I always think, sometimes I just look at her and I'm like, I really must have grown in my faith to attract someone like Elisa. Like her faith is so deep and so wide. When she talks, sometimes I'm just so proud of myself for being able to be friends. Like that she'd want to be friends with me. I'm like, because if Elisa knew me when we were younger, I was not going to make the friend circle. You know, so I do not let my children, and they can be friends with everyone at their school, at their activities, and Jesus take the wheel. Some of the things my older daughters here at dance, Jesus take the wheel. Outside of those activities, that's my decision, who you spend time with. And it's not based on just the student, it's based on the family, the parenting, or whatever. Because you are not wise enough, Miss Tony, my daughters are not wise enough to decide who it's best to spend time with. And the day I see them deciding to spend time with Jesus over everyone else, the day I might be like, now you can decide who you want to spend time with. Right? And I'm not doing that. I'm not choosing Jesus to spend time with over everyone else in my life yet. So that is a decision they're not ready to make. What they do with their friends within the parameters of them, great, go ahead. I don't care. I was the mom that when my kids were young in elementary school, they were gone. No cell phones, Publix, subs, whatever. Here's my card. That has kicked me in the butt because now I don't know what they think a debit card does. But when I used to give that to my 8 with no parameters, it was Publix and maybe a treat I didn't want them to buy. Now it's like concert tickets. I'm like, oh, well, no, that required an approval, honey. That expense. But so I let them make all those, and then they come back. I'm like, well, I just stopped at the store. I said, get some mints. They got gum. We don't buy gum. No big deal. I didn't say that when I sent them in. When they came out, we don't buy gum. If you get gum or whatever, it's a special occasion. But in our family, we don't chew gum. So again, but I'm letting them make that decision. I sent them in with my card, and I said, get me some mints and get a couple more in case anyone at the table wants them. So you have to grow in this. So what? Okay, we have like 6 minutes left. What about writing? Do you may have questions with? And again, I am not an expert on this. I'm just trying to open the door for you and your own family. What sort of questions did this come up that you have to think about that possibly I could shed light on or someone else in this room? About AI, writing, ChatGPT, the academic essay, research. Yes.
I mean, okay, so little new to homeschooling here, mom of 4 boys.
Awesome.
So totally opposite
Yes.
from you. Guess what boys don't like to do?
I know.
Right. So that creativity side is not like naturally inherent. I'm the creative one.
Yes.
And they become crazy, which is totally fine. So how would you go about teaching the creative side and the writing side, and with the end goal in mind of the essays, because they're not going to write beautiful stories for us? Which direction would you go in with that?
I'm a huge read aloud fan, and I think Jim Trelease wrote the best book on this. Jim Trelease wrote a book called Read Aloud Handbook. It really is, I might be spelling his name wrong, I've read it several times. It really is the precipitous to the book Read Aloud Revival, written by, I believe, Sarah Mackenzie, but I believe hers is kind of the more generalized version. Get right into his meat and potato. I believe read aloud or listening aloud, audiobooks, to adventurous books, sneaking, yes, Elisa's a big,
So I have 2 boys. They hate writing.
Right.
And they hated reading. One of them loved it, one of them hated it. I was like, he's never gonna read a book ever. He just turned 11 and he chose to start reading in bed at night. And started journaling with his voice into a phone and creatively writing a story. And I was like,
but verbally, orally.
verbally. He didn't type it, but we have been listening to audiobooks in the car for years.
Yeah,
I
Chuck
have
Black.
some amazing audiobooks with your
Yes.
voice that are written amazing, all things. But I literally was like, they're never gonna write. They're never gonna be like. And now both of them in different ways, but their vocabularies are amazing.
They are,
And they actually enjoy reading. I'm paying them to read other harder books now, but actual books.
That's
not
what I did.
just
We got from John
listening.
Maxwell, who
Yeah.
speaks at our church. He said, "Why did you pay your kids to take out the trash? Pay them to read books." I was like, and I never turned up.
I do both. Well, power washing.
you
I pay them for power washing and reading.
Good point.
But
So the reading aloud is always going to give your biggest benefit. I believe, and that could be audiobooks, that could be you. Now, obviously, the highest value is when you can discuss things with them. So if you're listening to an audiobook in the car, which Elisa was, she lives, far. She used to live far from things, so she had plenty of car time. It's that discussion. Also, what do you think's going on? But it could be an audiobook. So engaging in the book with them on some format is going to be huge. Another thing you can do to grow creativity for them is making them speak to you in a way that they're developing writing skills without them realizing it. So hey, just say that again, but use complete sentences and tell me your idea. So let's say they have a dream. I have a dream. I'll tell you about it. Great. I can't wait to hear about your dream. Before you tell me about it, take a minute, think about it. Think about the main idea of it, how it ended, and just make them take a minute. It'll be a slow process depending on the age of them, but then they know how to write a story. If you can tell a story, you can write a story, which is why we have Aesop's fables long before the written word ever existed, because those were oral fables. So if they can tell a story, they can write a story. They don't need to know how to write it. Handwriting, another thing with that is Benjamin Franklin learned how to be an incredible writer by simply doing copy work. So he would go, before libraries existed, because he invented them, he would go to bookstores, ask the owner of the bookstore to take out a book, and then he would just simply copy it. So a great way, if you're looking to still put handwriting into your home, which again would be goal dependent on you. I no longer require handwriting like I used to, so my firstborn's a great handwriter and a great speller. No offense, Piper, but I've shifted the emphasis over to verbal and oral communication skills. Not that she can't write, but I did shift away from what I made, because there's only so much time in the day, which my next talk is about prioritize what matters, organize the rest. So you can make your kids great writers by orally forcing them to write out loud with their mouth, which is the concept in IEW of retelling. So in IEW, you would do your rough draft, you would retell it 3 times. So if you really want to teach your kid to tell a great story with his dream without him realizing it, make him tell it 2-3 times. And then every time offer feedback. Oh, that was really good, but I was super confused about, it seemed like the main character was dad, but then you switch it, think about it again and tell it to me again. And this requires an active listening, and with children, you can't always active listen or you'll be bombard yourself. Yes.
I don't feel like, I feel like this is a big question. I know you only have 1 minute, but last year was the first time that I had my sophomore choose to turn in a paper to me that I could tell was completely not his writing.
Yes.
And, it was really obvious.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
you didn't know
wow,
that.
I live with you. I hear you talk all day.
And so considering college preparation,
Yes.
and then my oldest being accused of using
Right.
AI, even though I know he didn't.
Right,
And he is a more,
Because that will happen more and more
You
if
know
they
my
have
child.
great vocabulary
Yeah.
and great writing skills. They will be accused.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
So how do we manage this in this world of, I have one student who has to be so intentional to be intelligent enough and creative enough, but to not let it be flagged as AI, and one student that is so reluctant to want to put his own ideas on paper that now we sit at the counter in the kitchen for all writing assignments, and all electronics are banned from that counter. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that's the only way I can get him to
Yes.
write something.
Right.
So is there
In
another
this
way?
context, everything you're talking about, Rachel, are school problems with other people's rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what I would say for a kid like that in my class, I'm like, that's just character. I don't care if you hand in your paper. So again, you have to adhere to rules of a system that you decided to participate in, which is bringing other value to your family, athletically, and all these things.
Yeah.
But that's a system that you have to participate in. So if you end up in a system of a college that requires you to write a 10-page academic paper without cheating, then that's what you should do because we have good character. You know, Grayson being accused of cheating when he's not, that's just a cross people are going to have to bear with technology. But yes, when you're put in situations, it's the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. So a child that doesn't have the skill is going to be led into temptation to do this. But remember, plagiarizing and cheating has been around for a very long time. One of my new good friends is a surgeon, and she said she made a small side hustle all through medical school writing papers for her colleagues. Well, when you go to your surgeon, do you know which ones she was writing the paper for or which ones weren't? We don't, right? So plagiarizing, and so there's always been someone to write the papers. There was who knew the paper writer in school, or who was the paper writer? Yeah, Jessica knew the paper. There's always been the ability to pay someone to write your paper. Why? Because that is not a skill we all possess. Because remember, in education, you got a generalized education till about 12, historically, and then after 12, you went into a specialized education adhered to you. So if we choose to participate in an educational system, whether it's school or college, after that they have rules, they have to learn to adhere to the rules and accept the consequences of those rules. That's just the fact of the matter. I'm just going to pray real quick over the room and then I'm going to end. All right, Lord, thank you so much for these families that are here today. Lord, we thank you for these tools you've given us and we want to embrace them, but we never want to be stripped away from our ability to use the things you've given us with the greatest tool, which no computer will ever compare to the brain you've given us. Help us to steward our children in a modern world. We want to be in the world, but not of the world, Lord. Help us to lead us not to temptation, the temptation that these tools can use to make us lazy or not thinkers or to cheat and use someone else's words as our own. Lord, please bless this entire day and all the women who did and men who did the hard work to put it on. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys so much.